from Huron-Bruce.
My question is for the Premier. Speaker, over the past couple of weeks, we have seen the Liberals put forward an almost unprecedented number of amendments to their cap-and-trade bill. Now, with more than 70 Liberal amendments before the committee, it's clear the government is rewriting its own bill on the fly. So, Speaker, it's time for the Premier to explain why her signature piece of legislation is such a mess. Is it because she's also chose to write the cap-and-trade bill on the back of a napkin at her kitchen table over the weekend, or is this just how she handles the rules for Ontario's democracy?
Minister of the Environment and Climate Change.
Minister of the Environment and Climate Change.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We've been consulting now for about the better part of 2 years on this, Mr. Speaker, and we continue. This is one of the most complex pieces of legislation ever introduced into the legislature. The amendments are largely technical, based on input from a variety of industries. As you may know,
Finish, please.
And I've spoken at the London Chamber of Commerce, the Guelph Chamber of Commerce, the Mississauga Chamber of Commerce. There is very great support for a cap-and-trade. As a matter of fact, there is great concern, Mr. Speaker, that the opposition, which after every single amendment is calling a 20-minute break, is causing destabilization in the discussion, and their lack of...
I stand, you sit. I've got a list of about 4 names that I'm going to talk to, especially the person asking the question. Supplementary.
Thank you, Speaker. Back again to the Premier. We all agree we need to address climate change, but that doesn't mean everyone must agree on the Liberals' flawed cap-and-trade scheme. It's obvious, Speaker, that Bill 172 was slapped together so the Premier had a PR document before jetting off to Vancouver for an environmental photo op with Justin Trudeau. But the result is haphazard, with loopholes big enough to drive a truck through. Funding decisions will be made in secret, taxpayers will receive no relief, and the Financial Accountability Officer will not have access to spending plans. Speaker, will the Premier admit she's messed up, withdraw Bill 172, and begin developing a revenue-neutral plan that protects taxpayers?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would invite anybody, Mr. Speaker.
The member from Huron-Bruce.
I would invite anyone to look at what those amendments are, Mr. Speaker. They are advice from lawyers and from industry associations on very technical pieces that are not terribly consequential from a public policy perspective, but are critical for the actual functioning of that. Many of those were representations at committees and continue to be. Why the opposition would filibuster over and over again for days over technical requirements required by industry is beyond me. And the answer is because they don't actually support carbon pricing or climate change, Mr. Speaker, because the 2 amendments that they introduced, Mr. Speaker, would de-link us from California and Quebec and undermine investments in critical infrastructure necessary for a successful...